Hey, this is Rob from JTRpodcast.com, and this is Welcome to Centerville, a sort of a Yahtzee-style city builder where you're rolling dice and you're getting rerolls, and you're doing things with them in order to score points. Now, we played this two-player, which includes using a third bot player, which I generally don't like, but it worked quite well in this game. But what you're doing is, as I said, you're rolling these dice. You've got 6 dice of these different colours or with different symbols on them, and you roll them, and you can re-roll any of them any number of times. There are some with a little egg timer thing on, which you put on a track, and you can't re-roll those, they're kind of used up. But when you're done rolling, you use the side you've got left to take various effects on this board, and the board is quite in-depth and looks quite confusing when you first look at it because there's a lot of stuff on there. But let's go around all the different things you can move up on this greenbelt track at the top there. You can move up on that track. You can place cubes into these different housing boxes, and the number of the different symbols you roll depends on how far away from the middle you can get, and there's worth more points the further out you are. More influence the further out you are, because there's a bit of an area control thing going on there. You could try and take some of these houses at the bottom of the board here, where you can see with the river with the arrows pointing into the streets. You can take those. You can try and take some offices at the top. There are the different political offices you can try and control. And there's also these masters that you could try and take. We never got to take those because we never got the right roll. You need 4 of a certain symbol to get that, and that was quite difficult. And then on the left of the board here, you've got these different sort of vocation tiles that you can take that are placed lowest to highest, and the lower ones are harder to get because there's fewer of them in the game, but you obviously need more symbols of that type in order to take those tiles, so they're harder to get. And there's a bit of a set collection thing going on with those, which we'll get to in a bit. There's also a bench, which I didn't go into, which is sort of in the middle of the board, and you gain status equal to the number of cubes in the park. If you roll 3 benches, you can put cubes in the park, but I'll get to what all this does now. So what happens is, as you roll those little egg timer symbols, that's going to move up the time track. When that gets to the end, you do a bit of end round scoring. And I've glossed over all the dice and what they do because it's not really that important. What's important is this bit. This is where I can explain what everything does. So when the timer gets to the end of the track, you do some scoring. You look at the town first, and you're going to score each of the 4 regions there. You're going to score depending on which section they're in. You've got 2 score tokens. One is for, I think, reputation, and one is for finance or money. And it's whichever one of your tokens is the lowest is your score. And obviously you want to have the highest of those low scores in order to win the game. That's how you win. But what you're going to do is the yellow and the blue sections here are going to affect your money token, and the red and purple are going to affect your reputation token. Whoever's got the most influence in each of these regions is going to score 6 points. Whoever's got the least is going to score -3 points on those tokens. So you need to try and get as many as you can, obviously, in those different areas as high a value as possible, so you're not losing too many points there. You definitely want to be trying to gain the points on both your finance and your reputation marker. Then you look at those river tokens, and for each space north of the river is going to affect your wealth. So you're going to gain wealth, which is your money token, equal to how far you moved along on the greenbelt track, which is what you need to use the trees to do to move along there. And then the south of the river, it's prestige. Not reputation, it's prestige. So you need to move your prestige token for each river space you occupy south of the bridge, equal to the green belt track. If you're on the bridge, you gain both, depending on your position on the green belt track. So that's good to move both your score tokens up. Then you score wealth and prestige based on the number of offices you own. So again, there's a bit of area control there. You're trying to get cubes into those regions, and you need to put more cubes in than somebody has in there already in order to try and take control of it. And you're going to score both your wealth and prestige tokens, depending on how many offices you control. Then you score wealth and prestige based on your position on the status track and which side your status marker is on. So with one of the actions you can take, depending on the symbols that you've rolled, you can flip your token over so that you've got a double point token, so that's always good. And then basically you reset the round, so you remove all but 1 vote from each office. You reset the time marker, all the cubes on the office buildings and stuff, they all stay together, and everything else stays where it is. And then if it's the final round, which is after the end of round 3, I believe, you score your media tiles that you've been collecting. So the more you have of the different media tiles, you will score a number of points. So you're sort of collecting different ones to score a different range of points, but you're also going to score for the multiples of the ones that you've got. So if you've got 5 different tiles, you're going to score 10 points. If you've got 3 of the same one, you'll score an additional 5 points for that. You gain victory points for your occupied villas. They're the ones that you get from taking the river spaces and the bridge spaces. And then there's these legacy tiles, which are sort of hidden scoring. You've got one each, and there's one on the board that everybody knows about, and you'll get 6 points if you've got the most of that, and 3 points if you've got the least of whatever it says. So it's going to be all the different things on the board that you've done. And I know I've kind of glossed over this quite quickly and not too in depth, but I think this would be a very, very long video if I did it all in depth. It is a very simple game though. You are just basically rolling dice, putting things on the board, and doing stuff with them to score points. It's mostly area control, so you're trying to control all these different areas, so you've got the most cubes there, the most authority in these different regions, so you benefit from that. You've got your double scoring tokens that you need to control and try and move up on both the tracks. You don't want to just focus on one track, you need to make sure that you're getting a decent score on both of them. And just to make things really bad, there are these disaster tokens which are placed around the board on various tracks that can activate at different times, which can force you to discard cubes from the board and things like that, and they're very nasty. Overall, it was a good game. It was very complicated. I didn't really get it at first. It kind of sunk in towards the end, but there's still a bit of a knowledge gap in which symbols. I know which symbols do what. It's the different values of those symbols, because sometimes you needed 2, sometimes you needed 3, and it was quite difficult to get all that together. But once you know what you're doing, it's a very simple game. It's a very fun game. It sort of would replace King of New York, which is basically the closest game I can think that it is to this. Is King of New York, so it's more complex than King of Tokyo. This is more complex than that, but it's a much better game. I mean, obviously the theme's not as fun, but the game itself's better, and that's what matters. And now I kind of know what I'm doing, I'd like to play it again. That's Welcome to Centerville. Have you played this game? What do you think of it? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like, share and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at JTR Podcast. You can support the channel at patreon.com/JTR Podcast, and find the blog and the podcast itself at jtrpodcast.com. I've been Rob, aka Jesta ThaRogue, and I'll see you soon.